computer.
All right. So my name is Emma Farnham. I'm with the Wildfire Branch here in New Brunswick for Department of Natural Resources. I'm the Provincial Fire Smart Coordinator, and this is a community presentation that we like to share through outreach in open houses, fire departments, and then any outreach events like outdoor shows. So I'm just going to kind of run through the national program on what exactly Fire Smart is. And from there, I'll kind of just give a rundown of opportunities for communities now moving forward. So we like to say FireSmart, Anthiophil, and other associated marks are trademarks of the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center. So because this is a national program and we are trademarked under their legalities, we just ask that if you want to use the FireSmart logo or anything like that, we encourage it. We just need to have it in writing. So you can send an email to firesmart@gnb.ca for that information. So, what exactly is FireSmart? So, FireSmart's about living with wildfire and managing it for our landscapes. So, FireSmart is a Canadian standard recognized by all provinces and territories. So, we now have a coordinator in each province and territory nationally. And in BC, their Fire Smart program is very well established and it has been for several years. They have up to 750 coordinators at this time. And then, so we're just getting into it with in New Brunswick here. We finally got this position approved so we can kind of implement it further and trying to gain some traction here in the Maritimes for it. So it's based on National Fire Protection Association standards and has evolved over the last 40 years. So it's not a new thing whatsoever, but it's something that has been researched and proven to work. It's backed by a vast amount of field laboratory and modeling research. FireSmart guidelines have proven their legitimacy as measures of hazard, and FireSmart methods have been demonstrated time and time again to reduce the risk of losses under even the most extreme fire conditions. So, FireSmart is about mitigating and managing your own property in a way that if a wildfire was to come through, your structure is more likely to survive. And that's what we're trying to get across here in the Maritimes. Itself is directed by myself as well as a Fire Smart committee. And that committee is composed of many different agencies, and I have kind of the logos here. So we have industry, we have different government organizations, we have the feds for Parks Canada, we also have the national program, as well as Gage Town here in D&D Forestry. So the goal is to have a representative from anyone, industry or government-wise, that is affected when a wildfire occurs. So we can better fire smart the province in a way that all the partnerships and stakeholders are working together to get this done. And it's basically it helps with the roadblocks and barriers by having these different organizations all involved. Mission so is basically just to build a wildfire resiliency and reduce the negative impacts of fire for everyone in the province through this Fire Smart program. Our vision is a wildfire resilient province where everyone works, plays, and lives fire smart. And the strategic goal that we have is everyone in the province is aware of Fire Smart, understands their role, and accepts responsibility, and takes action to increase wildfire resiliency. So we did a survey in early January, and we reached out to New Brunswick residents. And what we found out is not a lot of people are aware of the Fire Smart program. They aren't aware of wildfires and that they're in the Maritimes, and they're not very worried about them at this time. So we keep making jokes that we say, well, that's pretty low. So we can only improve from there. And in our outreach, we're hoping to do that. The program now, we were able to sign on 2 summer students to travel the province this summer. and set up at provincial parks, federal parks, and community events just to get the word out here. Um, so far this year, we've had over 70 wildfires, and it's May 8th. And that number is growing day to day. And just because it's not on the media or the news every day doesn't mean that they're not occurring. Our wildfires here in New Brunswick are mainly started by human error. And what we're trying to do is heavily educate people on fire smarting your property to protect your home, but as well as just being more aware of the risks that's out there. So Fire Smart is your go-to source when preparing for the wildfire season. So everyday chores make everyday heroes. So simple tips and tricks for homeowners to protect their property against wildfire. So a lot of people don't think of little things like cleaning your gutters. Cleaning your gutters actually is a fire smart chore, as we call them. Even looking at things like keeping your grass maintained to short and manicured, just so a potential ember or a cigarette or anything doesn't ignite it. Wildfires, there's a common misconception that while your structures are taken by a wall of flames, and that's simply not the case. And that's what we're trying to educate the public on, and the maritime provinces. The embers that are thrown from the fire itself can travel multiple kilometers, and that is usually what ends up igniting people's structures. So where does Fire Smart happen? So we call this the Wildland Urban Interface, and we call it WUI for short. And what that means is where the forest meets the community. So this is our main area of focus within the Fire Smart program, is focusing on communities and subdivisions here in the Maritimes. As you can see with the intermix and interface, a lot of New Brunswick, almost all of it, our subdivisions, our houses, we enjoy living in the woods or living next to woods. And it's a great thing. We need to be aware of wildfires and how to kind of protect our structures and properties safely so we can kind of live within wildfire areas. So a WUI fire, so it's where the fuel being consumed by a wildfire changes from wildland fuel to urban fuel. So structural ignition occurs when wildfire embers or flames kindle vulnerable parts of your structure. So again, you see the trees, this is your wildfire, your wildland fuel, and the embers that are being thrown because of its intensity of the burn, it's throwing embers onto the structure, and that's where your structure will ignite and become an urban fuel. So the Wildland Urban Interface, so the WUI itself, so nationally they did kind of a map of where it occurs. And as you can see here in the Maritimes, we are very well populated. There's a big population for a small landmass. And because of that, we are all intertwined in that intermix interface wooded wildland fuel. So why Fire Smart? So why exactly is this important? So the thing is with wildland fire, it starts with an escaped initial attack. So what that means is either it was human caused or lightning caused, regardless of how a wildfire starts, the fire departments usually are our first responders as well as our DNR rangers to go and fight these fires. Now, the thing is, when the forest is burning, it's one thing, but as soon as the structure is ignited, basically it can start to get out of hand very quickly. So fire departments can usually handle maybe one or two structures. So the thing is, if you have a wildland fuel burning, so your forest is burning and it's burning up to a home, and then the structure ignites because it wasn't fire smarted or wildfire resilient. So what happens is once that structure ignites, the likelihood of the next structure igniting and then multiple more in the subdivision or community is actually very plausible and will most likely happen. So for suppression side of things, we're we're almost at a loss with Mother Nature at that point. So there's only so many suppression tactics that we can do in order to stop that wildfire. So our main thing is what we're trying to do is Fire Smart is a prevention and mitigation tool in order to help us further our suppression tactics if a disaster was to happen. So New Brunswick is susceptible to intense wildfire behavior in the wildland urban interface. So we see a lot of media about provinces out west there, and lots of frequent fires, lots of intense fires, and to large scales. As we discussed earlier, there's been over 70 wildfires just this year. The middle picture and the one to your right is from a fire just last year in the St. George area. It ignited after a wheeler was on the pipeline and didn't properly basically clean the muffler, and it ended up igniting the grass, and then it went into this boggy skaggy area. So the thing is there's simple things and human errors, I guess, and factors that come into play. So we might not get the lightning starts as out west does, but we do get all the ignitions from the human factors that are involved. And the fact that we are all in communities that are in the interface and the intermix areas is why we're trying to push so hard this program, just to make the awareness to the public. So this is a picture that I like to show. Um, in 2016, the Fort Mac fire happened, and what happened here is you see to your left, wall of flames, as you will, but you also see that big barrier, right? So that there's almost a fire break in between. There's that big road. The flame lengths can't reach the structures. You would think, good, perfect, we're okay. But as you look over to the light there on the right hand side and you look down, you see actually an ignition happening. So what that wall of fire is doing in that wildland fuel is it's throwing embers, and that ember happened to hit a bush or shrub or woody something in that person's property, and that was the what ignited the fire on that side of the road, and that's what would it basically ended up taking those structures. So it does happen. This is how it happens, and we're just trying to make people aware of it. These embers can travel for multiple kilometers, and a lot of people say, well, I don't live close to the woods, I'm fine. But the fact that they can travel, and especially with the wind events that we do have here in the East Coast, they travel at high ranges and at high speeds. So we're nobody's immune to it, but we can work better on just being more aware and fire smart. So we do have an Ember transfer video. And what this goes over, it has subtitles, so it'll kind of, I'll be quiet here for a couple of minutes, and it's gonna describe. It's mimicking a wildfire. It was done in the northwestern U.S. as a research project. It's in a controlled environment, and what it's doing is it's comparing siding, it's comparing roofing material, gutters, shrubs next to your home, and one side is a wildfire resilient property, a more fire smart property, and one is the typical one that you'd find right now. And I'll kind of let it play through, and it'll explain as it goes through here. Okay. So after that demonstration, you kind of see the pros and cons of a certain kind of non-combustible materials that your home can be made out of. I like to reiterate, sorry, that FireSmart is a continuous project and program. It's not a meant it's not meant to be immediate. And I like to be very honest and transparent with community members and residents. If you can do a couple things in your property to reduce the risk, that's better than nothing. And it's a step in the right direction. There's a, with the economy that they're in, there's not going to be replacing decks because of a Fire Smart program, replacing roofs because of a Fire Smart program. But just, we're trying just to get the message out there that when you are renovating or constructing a new home, these are kind of some tips and tricks on how you can better protect your home. So we're kind of going to get into that right now. So it's what can you do as a homeowner? And so what this is the home ignition zone. The home ignition zone is broke up into three different zones. We have the immediate zone, and that's the 0 to 1.5 meters. Your intermediate is your 1.5 meters from your home to the 10 meters from your home. And then your extended zone, which is the 10 meters to 30 meters. So this is kind of the main area of focus that we like to draw people in and get their attention to. So going kind of more in detail about these zones. So your immediate zone, so that's right around your home. Okay, so that's 1.5 meters. It's the most vulnerable. And so what we're trying to kind of get out there is when you have gardens right next to your home, it's not great. And as you've seen in that video, it's the shrubs that start to ignite the home because of their intensity when they're burning. So we like to say choose non-combustible building materials when constructing or renovating. Again, it's something to look at if you happen to be in those renovation stages. Clear vegetation and combustible material down to mineral soil and cover with non-combustible materials like gravel, brick, or concrete. We're not trying to make anyone's yard and property a concrete jungle, sorry. That's not our intent at all. What we're saying is there's simple kind of tips that you can follow that your yard will still look like you live in the woods and stuff, but it's just like simple kind of changes. So we're really trying to push the mulch or the gardens right next to your home is not ideal. So in this zone, try to just keep it raw if possible. And again, just avoid planting woody shrubs or trees next to it, as we just seen in that video. We also are pushing, it's the home ignition zone self-assessment. What this is it's an app on your phone, and it's for Androids and iPhones and for everybody. It's a free app. It's through our national program. And what it does is it kind of lets you do a self-assessment of your own property to kind of guide you in the right direction on things that maybe are concerning or like that you should pay attention to or that you can mitigate. And all this information is not stored anywhere. Like there's no database on who's doing it. It's just for your reference. The intermediate zone is your 1.5 meters to your 10 meters. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying not to allow fire to your home. So and reduce your home's vulnerability. So plant fire resistant vegetation and select non-combustible landscaping materials. We kind of went over in BC, they have a very developed Fire Smart program. And so what they actually do is with garden houses and Home Depot and everything else, they actually have a plant tag program. And what it does is you tag the plants that are more wildfire resilient, just so people can make quick decisions in the garden houses and not have to do any research. And so what we're doing here in the Maritimes, so New Brunswick has teamed up with PEI as well as Nova Scotia. And we're working on developing a landscaping guide specific for Fire Smart, just in order again to help everybody out in a way that it's a more easily accessible. So again, we're really trying to push the mulch. It's a big thing here in the East Coast, and it is wonderful, and it's wonderful just in away from your home. We did have a folk stop by at one of our outreach programs, and he said he used to manage McDonald's. He said, and they had mulch right next to the drive-through where people order. And the amount of fires started just because somebody flicked a cigarette. It's pretty shocking how dry it is. So we just really try to push that. Keep combustible items like firewood piles, construction materials, furniture, tools, decorative pieces out of this zone. So again, it's if these types of items start to burn, the intensity is going to be high enough that it's going to start to affect your structure because it's so close. I always say the firewood piles, we're not saying go home and start moving all your firewood piles that you've stacked there for years, but we're saying that when next time you get firewood, maybe push it out to that extended zone just so you don't have that risk so close to your structure. Storage sheds and other combustible structures into the extended zone. So again, we like to say, so you can see in this image here that there's a garage, and we always say to kind of fire smart that as well. Again, that 0 to 1.5 immediate zone is very vulnerable. And as we discussed, once one structure is ignited, the likelihood of another igniting is pretty high. So we're just trying to mitigate that risk as well. And then the extended zone, so that's your 10 meters to 30 meters. So
Emma, we've lost your audio.
can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay, is that okay?
That's perfect. Yes, please continue.
Okay, sorry about that. And can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the extended zone. So where are we at? It's not to eliminate fire, but it's to reduce its intensity. So what that means is your wildland fuel, your trees are burning, but what we want to do is get those flame lengths to a size that is more manageable for suppression tactics, for your fire departments, for your DNR rangers, to better protect your home. Wildfire resilient plants, shrubs, and trees are your leafy trees, your hardwood trees. And we just kind of try to push for these zones so close to your home. If anyone's burned a Christmas tree after the fact, they go up pretty intensely and they burn very quickly. And that's what happens in a wildland fire. So we kind of push to have hardwoods rather than the conifer trees in this proximity to your home. However, everyone has beautiful spruce trees in their yards, and they've been there for years, and we completely understand that. So, if to mitigate that risk, we try to say you can kind of prune it in a way so if a wildfire was say on the ground going through your grass, that it doesn't have the ability to climb those branches from the bottom, and it has to almost climb 2 meters from the ground, which is unlikely for a ground fire to move that far up the tree trunk. So that's just one of the mitigation things. And like we said, we're not saying you have to go cut down your beautiful spruce trees or conifer trees. It's just these are little tips on how to mitigate that risk. Again, regular cleanup of accumulations of fallen branches, dry grass, and needles to eliminate potential surface fuels. So the less debris we have, the less fuel for that fire, and that's kind of what we're trying to push in Fire Smart. So just especially we understand with the hurricanes, the windstorms, and all the events that happen here in the Maritimes, that a lot of trees get knocked down, a lot of debris gets piled up. So it's just trying to mitigate that and reduce it as much as we can. And then within communities and subdivisions, for people's property, sometimes it doesn't go into 30 meters from the home. So we kind of say work with your neighbor on that as well. And then it's more hands, less work type situation. So the 7 disciplines of Fire Smart. So this is the how we're implementing the program, and this is the main keys on what we're trying to focus on. So education is basically number one. So right now it's like I said, a lot of outreach, a lot of public speaking, a lot of representation across the province, just trying to make people more aware of what Fire Smart is and how wildfires can negatively affect us. Emergency planning, so that's on the DNR side of things, working with the fire departments as well as the EMOs within communities. Vegetation management, so this would be almost harvesting mitigation within your yard or your community to make it from high risk to a lower risk and mitigate it. Legislation. So there's certain communities that are starting trying to develop bylaws within their community just because of how risky it is for a wildfire to occur and how many structures would be taken if that did happen. So there's communities within New Brunswick looking at that as well. Development. So we weren't able to hit it this year, but so next year, what we're hoping to do is go to home shows to start to talk to contractors, developers of new subdivisions. Here in the Maritimes, the population is rising. A lot of people are moving here, which is great. Lots of new houses are going up, so it's easier to start from the get go. So we're going to be kind of working and trying to get our Fire Smart word out there to the developers as well. And then the cross training and interagency cooperation. So again, that's just making sure that we're training with the fire departments. We're offering our Fire Smart training. We're also working with the other provinces and territories to better develop our program here in New Brunswick. And like we said, Fire Smart is a constant thing, and it has to be continued, and it's year after year. It's not one and done. So we're really just trying to look to develop a program here, make people aware of it, and kind of build off it, and hopefully catch up with BC. And then that's kind of it for this. I do want to share one more thing, if that's okay, Linda.
Yes, by all means.
Yes. And I'm just going to go, just 1 second, just switching it here. All right. And this is it's a new program, and it just launched today. So our Fire Smart New Brunswick website, can you see that okay?
Yes, yes, I can.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So gnb.ca/firesmart, and it'll pop right up for everybody. And what we're telling communities to do is as a lot of people might have seen, there's been a federal agreement signed with Natural Resources Canada and our province here, and it's about $15.4 million over the next 4 years. And what we're trying to do is get this money out to communities in in order to make them more wildfire resilient. And so what our program is now that this is launched, there's going to be an application form for communities to apply. This application form is 2 pages, and I'll show you real quick so you'll have it on record there. And what it is It's an application for us to fund a community wildfire resiliency plan for your community. It's going to be simply an invoice reimbursement system for this, and we also posted the contractors requirements for the communities so they know who they can hire. And we're really excited about this. So it's our year one. This is our plan for get communities this wildfire community community wildfire resiliency plan. And what that is it's basically, it looks at your community as a whole and breaks it almost into puzzle pieces of high risk, moderate, and low risk areas, as well as critical infrastructure within your community. And what the contractors and consultants will do is they provide recommendations and mitigation opportunities within the plan. And it gives you a step-by-step guide on how to lower the risk of wildfire within your community. And so looking at the, as I said, GMB/FireSmart here, you go over to communities, and this is also available in French as well. And you click community wildfire resiliency plans. So you have your application, the plan template. So it gives you an idea of what it's going to look like, as well as the contractor requirements. So the application for is, like I said, 2 pages. Very easy. We're trying to make this, we did a jurisdictional scan nationally on what worked best for communities, fire departments, for these applications, and it came back simpler the better, which works for me as well. So what the only requirement for the application, they just have to be of a signing authority on behalf of the community. So the template there, it's also posted, and we provide this template, and this template is specifically so every community gets the same good product at the end of it, and everyone is can move forward in the same way, regardless of what contractor or consultant they hired. And then the contractor requirements. So we posted this for the communities to be aware of, as well as contractors or consultants that are within the province, so they know if they meet those standards. And we just ask that if you do find a consultant or contractor, that we will be approving them or not approving them, depending. And we're just asking that on behalf of the communities, and it's merely just to make sure that this product that you're getting, that we're sharing, that it is to the standards that it needs to be in order to push this Fire Smart program ahead and to make New Brunswick more fire smart and wildfire resilient. And I think that's about it for me.
Well, I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much for coming tonight. And we'll stop recording. And that way, if I see Lorraine's joined us, so if she has any questions, she can
Okay,
ask at that time. So thank you. And I'll stop recording.
perfect. Thanks.